My name is Shannon Zirkle, and I'm going to be doing my presentation on the chapter Sane Enough to Kill on Women, Madness, and the Theatricality of Violence in Susan Glaspell's The Verge, written by Noelle Hernando Real. Real talks about how Susan Glaspell's The Verge is described by critics of the times as a perplexing, unusual, and disturbing play. The play is an early example of using violence on stage as a feminist agenda. By 1921, the 19th Amendment had acknowledged women's enfranchisement. Real states that the truth is that women were still expected to be angels in the house and known as fallen women if they deviated from this model. The Verge was written and premiered during an important phase in women's movement. Real talks about how the play presents a new, real woman, Claire Archer, who, while trying to define herself, takes control of her own life. Many decades had to pass before people got to hear new voices from the feminine movement. The new voices talked to end gender-based subjugations and end the objectification of women in theater. Real talks about how Glaspell avoids black and white definitions. She has the character Claire as the victim and the victimizer, leading the audience to make their decisions about the consequences of caging women inside expected gender roles. After The Verge opened, it became the holy shrine of a huge feminist group of the time called the Heterodoxy. Not everyone liked the play, but everyone could agree that the play was written for the brain. The Verge is a very complex play. One reviewer from London stated that the play had a crudeness and violence as well as surpassing beauties. Real's article talks about the different ways that Glaspell depicts violence in the play as part of her feminist agenda, but also creating a crude but beautiful show that members of the audience are left to judge. According to Real, people who like traditional, well-made plays can only find faults in The Verge. On the other hand, others love the way that Glaspell disrupts the traditional theatrical forms that needed remodeling at the time. Real states that The Verge is considered to be one of the first feminist plays produced in New York. Violence in The Verge is staged usually verbally, visually, and symbolically. The setting is a strange and dangerous environment that helps the audience for the violence. The stage direction controls what the audience sees after the curtain comes up. The curtain lifts on a place that is dark, save for a shaft of light from below which comes up through an open trapdoor on the floor. This slants up and strikes the long leaves and the huge brilliant blossom of a strange plant whose twisted stem projects from. Nothing seen except the plant and its shadow. A violent wind is heard. A moment, a buzzer. It buzzes once long and three short. Silence. Again the buzzer. From below, his shadow blocking the light, comes Anthony, a rugged man past middle life. He emerges through the stairway into the darkness of the room, is dimly seen before taking up the phone. Real states that the opening has all the elements of a good horror film, and that is a contrast between light and dark that creates anxiety. The buzzer that breaks the silence tells the audience that something violent is about to happen. No violence has happened in the play yet. One scene, Anthony is on the phone taking the room's temperature like Claire asked him to. The stage blacks out, and when the light turns back on, it is daylight, and the stage shows the greenhouse covered in snow. The greenhouse is an isolated place where unnatural plants are displayed. Among the plants, Harry, Claire's husband, Dick, her lover, and Tom, her best friend, are having breakfast. Besides using the set to manipulate the audience's feelings to prepare the audience for the violence, Glaspell also uses the power of language. Today's plays show beatings, mutilations, rapes, fights, and other acts of violence, but in 1921, plays did not have all this, and swearing was unusual, especially when women were the playwrights. Real talks about how Glaspell revolutionizes the audience and critics of her time because her character Claire said the word whore on stage to insult her own sister. Claire calls her sister a whore for conforming to traditional language and for not understanding that Claire finds this way of communicating violent in itself. Claire throughout the play breaks, smashes, and destroys the words that critics see as man-made language. In the play, Glaspell makes fun of obvious forms of macho violence. Throughout the play, there is a gun on stage. The gun is usually a symbolic representation of the penis, symbolizing power, male violence, and provides dramatic tension. Real talks about how Glaspell uses the gun as a comedic prop. For example, Dick and Harry are having breakfast in the greenhouse, and Tom is locked out. Tom uses the gun to knock on the door, and when no one answers, he shoots the gun to get the men's attention. Tom wants to be let in and have breakfast, but Harry thinks that Tom is trying to commit suicide. Harry can only relate the gun to death. The gun comes into play again when Harry finds Dick and Claire having an affair. Harry chases Dick with the gun in his hand while Claire makes fun of her husband's macho, melodramatic reaction and takes the gun. Harry thinks it's important he shoot Dick, and Dick thinks it's important not to be shot, and you think I mustn't shoot anybody, even myself. And can't any of you see that none of this is important where revolvers can't reach? Putting the revolver where there is no edge vine. I shall never shoot myself. I'm too interested in destruction to cut it short by shooting. After looking from one to the other, laughs, pointing. 1, 2, 3, you love me. Claire's interest in destruction shows the most serious repercussions of how violent a woman can get when oppressed. Claire's first act of violence is when she smashes Tom's egg. The egg represents the conventional patterns that Claire needs to get rid of. Claire smashing the egg represents her need to escape from given forms. Smashing Tom's egg foreshadows when Claire murders Tom, smashing the life out of him. The egg also represents a circle, and Claire feels that she is trapped in the circle that society has created, and she wants to break through the circle. Claire's sister Adeline encourages Claire to stay in the circle, and Claire responds violently by smashing the circle like she smashed the egg. Claire is also violent and destructive towards her experiments. Claire's experiment, Edgevine, and the flower Breath of Life mirror her struggle to control her life and break free from the convention. Claire has another outburst of violence when she realizes that her two creations, Edgevine and her daughter, have failed Claire by being conventional. Edgevine cannot create, so is trapped inside form, and Claire's daughter, Elizabeth, is a proud product of society, just like all the other girls. One of Claire's creations, Breath of Life, was a short success. This led Claire to her final success, killing Tom. Real states that most people interpret Claire's violent act of madness, neurosis, and hysteria that she has lost touch with reality and passes the verge of insanity. Many scholars agree that only through madness can Claire achieve freedom. The issue with The Verge is that Glaspell makes the audience feel sorry for Claire and they feel bad for Tom because Tom is a good guy and wants what's best for Claire. With The Verge, Glaspell starts a debate on women, violence, and madness. Claire is like her plants, on the verge of insanity, but might be saner than the rest. She is sane enough to take what others call madness and make it her only chance for sanity by killing Tom. Claire's a free agent resisting all interference from the patriarchal sphere. Theatrical fights are very meaningful because every movement within a fight possesses a specific value or significance to the character executing it. Its ultimate value is established by the motivation for the action, the object of action, the character's commitment to that action, and its relative worth or utility. At the beginning of the scene, Claire embraces Tom by putting her arms around his neck, but throttles him in the end. Claire's gift of love to Tom is a gift that allows her to escape from the forms molded for her. According to Real, when Claire kills Tom, she is finally liberated from being the angel of the house and becomes a goddess beyond good and evil. Claire's attempt to become some kind of god through her experiments with the plants. The Edgevine is Claire's cross, her conviction that humanity must be saved from convention. There are connections between Claire and her plants and Frankenstein, both humans trying to become God. Claire is also like the Greek god Prometheus, who stole fire, the symbol of life. Claire controls the heating, directing it all towards the greenhouse where her creations are. Claire fails to become a goddess by creating new life, so she turns to the other end by taking a life, by killing her plants and Tom. Tom told Claire that he had a dream that he was one of her ugly plants to destroy. Tom helps Claire by accepting the role of sacrificial goat so that she can fulfill her project of power and liberation. Claire was glad that her son died so that he did not change into a dull person. Claire thinks that Tom is in danger of being trapped by conformity and that she liberates him from this risk. Tom's death is what makes Claire into a modern heroine who spurned those around her because of her inner urge to discover what is out there. Claire feels that she has saved herself and triumphed over social forces that were keeping her down. Glaspell uses Claire not as the cheerful, hysterical scream of a madwoman, but the painful determination of a Dane female protagonist to make the audience think about the dangers of entrapment. Real says that Claire can be seen as the freest female character in Glaspell's plays. She releases herself from hereditary environment, duties, convictions, and from family ties. After strangling Tom, the gun becomes into play again. Claire takes the gun and shoots, driving home the male violence convictions. Instead of using the gun to kill Tom, she uses it to get the other characters' attention. After the other characters see Tom dead, Claire starts singing a religious hymn. Some people think having Claire sing a religious hymn ties her traditional women roles and entails the inevitability of women's renewed imprisonment. However, Claire feels nearer to God after killing Tom and becoming godlike by giving and taking life. Her cross, as the form edge of vine has symbolized. Real concludes The Verge by revisiting Glaspell's link between women, madness, and violence, showing that women's madness and hysteria can be tricky words in a patriarchal strategy that tries to keep women under control. Glaspell creates a protagonist strong enough to deconstruct the phallocentric world of oppression through symbolic violence. Real states that The Verge, a century after its opening, is still considered a powerful piece of feminine theater that destabilizes the patriarchal control that wants to shock the audience into awareness and action. Glaspell wrote this warning for oppressors: "We have failed, we are through, we will destroy." That concludes my presentation. Thank you.